Can. Today, okay. Where's black? Titanium white. Okay, no titanium white today. Titanium white. primary colors. Pretty obvious right here. I always get nervous. Hello. Man. Nervous. I do nervous. Yes, I do. Those are not going to come into play until tomorrow. We'll get right into it here in just a moment. Just have a good time, buddy. If you look at the basic screen, I've got a water cup. Hello. Oh, backwards too. Backwards. Let's move you guys out of the way. All of you guys move out of the way. Except for maybe you. So. Whoa. We're already on? You're going on automatically. Here we go. All right, everybody. Here we go. Here we go. How's everyone doing today? Just doing some checks here on my camera out. Says All right. No worries, guys. I was actually doing some test runs on my feed here. Didn't realize that it was actually going live already. Jumped ahead of me. So all good though. I didn't do anything crazy while the video was already playing. Didn't even realize it. How's everyone doing today? I hope you guys are doing amazingly. I am as well. Sorry if I'm looking down right now, folks. I'm over here looking at the camera. What's happening, Joanne from Sudbury, Ontario? Paula Straw. All right, guys, I've got my phone up there that's recording me from the front part, right? From the front here. I do monitor the feed using my laptop. So if you guys see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at the comments. Okay. So just doing some checks here. If somebody could give me a sound check, let me know that you can hear me okay. That would be fantastic. All right, here we go. Got some people jumping on to the Facebook. I'm actually monitoring the feed in two spots, my StreamYard dashboard and then over here on Facebook. Got quite a nice group growing on the Facebook feed. So thank you all for joining in. We're a couple of minutes, maybe about 1 minute before the official start time. We're going to give it a little bit of time here to let some people jump on. What's happening, Paula? Slavica Onions, how's it going? Elizabeth Doyle from Michigan. Diane, what's up, Diane? How are you? Angelique Marie, what's up in Puerto Rico, Angelique? Thank you for joining in. Lisa, how's it going? Lisa says, I hear you. Fantastic. All right. So we're going to give it a little bit before we actually officially start. Took me a little bit to figure out some of the glitches. This is the first time that I'm live streaming to this private group on Facebook. So hopefully everything goes smoothly. I think it will. I trust that it will. So anyway, we're going to be painting for about an hour and a half today. Of course, we're going to be painting this awesome piece over here. I got my Starbucks here that I'm going to be drinking as we paint. But we're going to be working this in 3 days, as you guys already know. Today, we are primarily going to be focusing on the background. Oh, check this out. Let's see if you guys can see this. So you're not going to be able to get the full effect because I got lots of lights in the studio on right now, but I'm going to turn off this guy over here. Check this out, guys. And again, you're not getting the full effect of this, but look at this. Already you could tell that there is some pretty good glow in this piece. Check that out. I know it's kind of hard. Whoop, one more light. Hold on. I'm going to cross in front of the camera here for a moment. Sorry about that. And I know, again, it's kind of hard to see. I can see it in the video on the monitor there. Pretty cool. In the dark, this thing looks amazing. So we're not going to be adding any glow in the dark until Saturday. Maybe a little bit today on the background. But the glow in the dark stuff, for those of you that have it, we are not going to be adding it until Saturday. Okay, so in case anybody wants to know how the process is going to work. All right, it is 3:01. So let's officially kick this off. Okay, everybody, my name is Jesse, and I teach you how to paint and how to draw. My apologies, but I'm getting distracted by the screen here. Let me get back to it. What just happened? Looks like I did lose it. Whoops. Sorry, folks, bear with me one moment. There we go. Got it back again. I teach people how to draw and how to paint. Many of you have painted with me on Painting with Jesse page. Many of you on here today are going to be joining me from my art membership called Finding Your Brushstroke. It's also here on Facebook. Of course, this event is open to everybody. We are doing it over 3 days. Okay, why 3 days? Because it is a pretty detailed painting, and to make it look really nice, we need some time. We don't want to rush through it. Today, we're going to be painting in the background. We're going to be working on everything in the background, and that means the moon, the sky behind the moon or around the moon, the hill, that dark hill at the bottom of the painting or the middle of the painting, and then that dark area at the base. We'll see how far we get into it. We're going to paint for about an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 30 minutes max. Then tomorrow we're going to be adding in all the drawing components, the mansion on top of the hill, the tree, the tombstone, the pumpkins, all of that gets added in tomorrow, and we paint over all of that. We also add all the little tombstones on the hill, and then on Saturday we finish up with all the little tiny details, including adding the neon. Okay, the supplies that you're going to be needing, not necessarily today. Today, all you really need is something to paint on, like a canvas. I'm using a 16 by 20 inch canvas. You're going to need some paints. I'll go over the paint colors here in just a little bit. Of course, you'll be needing some brushes. That would be all you're going to need today, except for maybe a dryer, a blow dryer. I'm going to be using a blow dryer in between steps to dry it. Tomorrow, though, you do want to have the stencils. Okay, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to draw everything freehand. And I'll be turning my lights on here in a moment. I had some of the lights in the ceiling off, so I can show off the glow-in-the-dark part of the painting. But there are some stencils. I'm sure most of you already know. There are some stencils that I've made available. Now, I'm going to be drawing everything freehand. I'm going to be teaching you guys how to draw this freehand. But for those of you that want to download the stencils and a complete supplies list that gives you the exact colors I'll be using, you want to register for the event. There's still time for that. Okay. In the description of the video, there's a link that takes you to the registration page in case some of you may not have already done it. You'll be able to download a PDF with the stencils, the traceables. Okay. Again, I will not be using those. We're not going to be getting into those until tomorrow. I will not be using those. I'm going to be teaching you guys how to draw. When we do the drawing part of it or tracing part of it, you want to use something light to be able to see whatever it is that you draw against the dark background. Now, I'm going to be using chalk or chalk pencils when we get to that point. All you need is a basic stick of chalk. White, light blue would work. Anything that's going to contrast against the background. Okay. I'll be using pastel pencils for it. Real similar. Pastel chalk pencils is what I'm going to be using when we get to that point. But so let's get into the supplies. I mentioned brushes. Let's start with those. What brushes are we going to be using? Now, I'm going to be looking at the comments here in just a little bit in case you guys have any questions. But here are the official brushes I'm going to be using. As long as you guys have something similar, you're going to be okay. What's happening, Susan? Crafting around. How are you? Thank you. So first brush that I'm going to be using is this 1-inch flat brush. Primarily, this is going to be working in the background, especially those swirls that you see in the background. If you guys can pick them up in the video, that I'm using this 1-inch flat brush for this. I'm also going to be using this for the background, the hill, the dark blue hill that you see. I'll be using this for that. Maybe I'll switch over to a 2-inch flat brush for that part of it. We'll see. But this is a pretty versatile brush. Now, all the brushes that I use are synthetic Taklon, golden Taklon bristle brushes, at least for this painting today. The next one in the group is this 1/2-inch flat brush. Kind of similar usage, but you can do all sorts of different things with it. Maybe I'll use it to paint in the pumpkins when we get to that point. But a 1/2-inch flat brush. Next one on the list is number 10, Filbert. These little Filbert brushes are known for having the rounded edges at the top. These are nice to paint around objects like this, like the pumpkins. You can make skinny lines with it. There's all sorts of stuff you can do with these. If you don't have any of these brushes, don't stress out. Use what you've got. I've got this little number 5 Filbert, same as that one that you just saw, has that little rounded head. The top, all of my brushes, the majority of the brushes that I'm using, when you look at them from the top, they look nice and skinny and thin. Okay, there's a reason for that. We'll get into that later. And then the next one on my list is a 0 round brush. Okay, good for all the little detail work, skinny lines, the branches in my tree, some of the weeds down on the floor. Okay, 0 round brush. Then I've got, I'm missing it. I don't know where I put it, but I've got it. Must have rolled away from me, but I'll find it. I've got a number 0 liner brush, basically a very, very skinny brush. Here we go. Little guy like this, pointy. Same thing as the round brush, just a little bit skinnier and smaller. Okay, a little pointier too. Then I've got a number 2 flat brush, just a little square-headed flat brush, similar to that 1-inch or half-inch brush that you saw at the beginning. Really good for detail work. Okay, so those are my those are the brushes I'm going to be using. Okay, again, those are the official brushes that Jesse's going to be using for this. Don't stress out. If you got whatever you use, whatever you got, use that. Okay. Paper towels, lots of paper towels, good for cleaning up messes, but also good for cleaning the brushes. Okay. So good to have paper towels. I've got some paper plates. I like to use plates for palettes. Not the best thing to use, but they were pretty good. I've got the colors on there that we're gonna be starting with. Let me mist them really quickly. I like to use my little mister so they don't dry out. For those of you that know what a wet palette is, I do sometimes use a wet palette, although not too often. But instead of using a wet palette, I just mist them from time to time, and it keeps them nice and dry. We're working with acrylic paint. Acrylic paint dries very quickly. The colors that I'm going to be using today, official colors, phthalo blue. Okay, this is that really deep blue, especially the blue you see on that hill is mostly phthalo blue. I've got some primary blue. Oops, wrong one. I got them backwards. Primary blue and phthalo blue. Phthalo blue is that deeper, more purplish color. Okay. Now, if you've only got one blue, don't worry about it. Use whatever you've got. Then the other colors, I've got some burnt sienna, Mars black. I've also got some orange deep hue, cadmium orange deep hue. I've got some primary yellow. I've got some, let's see here, cadmium yellow deep hue. And then I think I already mentioned cadmium orange. And then I've got some titanium white. Basically, if you don't have any the fancy names for the colors, all you need is blue. You got some white, got black. It'd be good if you had 2 different shades of blue. If not, you could always darken up your blue a little bit. I normally don't use black to darken blue, but you could a little bit. Or red will darken blue, make it a little bit purplish though. It just depends on how much you mix. Or you can take whatever blue you have, add white to it to lighten it up. Now you've got blue for your background and blue down here for the hill. So orange, yellow. So those are primarily the colors. Blue, white, black, yellow, orange. And then I've got the neon colors in the neon colors that I'm going to be using. And again, you don't have to worry about this, except for maybe the blue. We're going to be using a little bit of this in the background later today. Neon blue. Okay, these are folk art paints. I've got some neon yellow for the pumpkin, the mouth. Got some neon orange, and then some neon green. Okay, so those are the colors. I want, I talked about the brushes already. Paper towels. I do use a rinse cup with water in it to keep my brushes wet and to clean them up a little bit. I have an extra rinse cup in the back. And then I've already mentioned I'll be using a chalk pastel pencil with an eraser on it. Okay, that's what I'm going to be using for the drawing parts of this. Here at the beginning, this is in blue. I'm going to be drawing my moon here in a moment, and then once we get into it, actually, I'll be drawing the hill a little, just the basic shape of the hill. I'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But you want some chalk or some light pencil, light colored pencil. Once we have the background all done and we start to draw the shapes in, you want something that will contrast against that the dark background color. I know I've already said that, but I want to repeat that in case some of you may have joined in a little bit late. But all right, everybody, let's take a look at those comments really quickly. Got a bunch of comments already. I apologize if I missed any of your questions or comments. The way this is going to work, and we're going to get into it here pretty quickly, I just had to go over all the details on the supplies list. I outline a step over here, and I give you a little bit of time to catch up on your end. Okay, and I go back, do the next step, give you a little time to catch up. You can record, you can back up the live video. You can, okay, here on Facebook and on YouTube. If you need to pause it, if you missed something that I said, you can pause it, you can back it up, okay? In case I'm going too quickly, you have those options. Now, all 3 sessions are going to be recorded today, tomorrow, and then Saturday. They're all going to be recorded. The sessions, as of right now, will only be available for you to go back and do them at your own time, in case you can't do the live. They'll be available through Sunday midnight. Okay, so please get these done. If you can't hang out with us today during the live session, you can come back and paint with those recorded sessions, and you'll find them right here on the in this private group, or you'll find them on the YouTube, the Painting with Jesse YouTube page. Okay, so that being said, let us move on. Oh, in between steps, I'll be jumping back in and saying hello and talking to you guys a little bit, checking out your comments. But we're going to get right into this. Let me turn my other light on really quickly. Give me 1 sec. Get yourselves ready. You want to start. Hold on 1 second. Let me get back to the microphone. You want to start. We're going to draw in our moon. We're just going to draw in the shape of the moon. Now, for those of you that don't want to draw it freehand, you can use something like the bottom of a bottle, a solo cup, a glass, something round. You just place it right up against your canvas and trace around it. Okay. The size of the moon doesn't really matter too much. It's up to you. On my 16 by 20 inch canvas, which is what I've got right here, it's probably about 3.5 inches wide, right, all the way around. About 3 inches this way, 3 inches that way. You guys know how a moon works, right? If we're going to be doing a full moon. So I'm just going to go ahead and freehand it using my I'm using my pastel chalk pencil. Now in this case, I'm using a dark pencil. Why am I using a dark pencil? So I can see it against the white background. The lighter pencils, the lighter chalk, all that stuff matters tomorrow. Once the background is all painted and we start to draw all this stuff, that's when you want to have a light pencil, white pencil, chalk pencil, etc., etc. So there is my moon. I don't need to have it perfect. I just want to come close. Give me a sec, guys. Let me jump on and make sure that everything looks good over here. All right, perfect. I know it's a little hard for you guys to see it. I'm going to darken this up a little bit. I think my lights are washing out. Okay. The beautiful thing about chalk and pencil, if I need to make a mistake, if I need to erase something that I think is a mistake, or just simply too big, too small, whatever, maybe it's crooked, I can easily come in and erase. So again, this is a pastel chalk pencil that I'm using with an eraser. So there's my moon. Okay, there's the shape of my moon. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my number 10 Filbert, okay, a little round brush. I'm going to go ahead and take some of my titanium white that I've still got here on my plate, and I'm just going to go ahead and first I'm going to do an outline. Sorry, not an outline, but I'm going to paint around the edge of my moon all the way around. Hope you guys are all excited about today's event, or sorry, the next 3 days, right? We got this event over the next 3 days. Halloween is my favorite time of year. Just a lot of fun, and this is an awesome way to kick it off. All right, so just putting down a layer of white. I know you guys can't see it. It's white on white, so just trust me. And I'm coming right up to my pencil, right up to my chalk lines. There we go. Okay, so take about a minute to get yours done. Remember, folks, you can back up the video, you can forward it, all that good stuff. Okay, what's happening? Paula and Brandy, Penny, Joanne, Brandy Hayes, how are you? All right, let me get back over here. What's happening, Melissa? How are you? Bernadette. And yes, folks, when we're all done with this, when we're all done with the painting, I'm going to ask that you share it with me so I can post everybody's pictures on the Painting with Jesse page. All right, so we got the moon all drawn in. Here's what I'm going to do now. I got some primary blue sitting here on my plate. I'm going to spritz it really quickly with a little spray with a little bit of water. Again, keeps my acrylic paint from drying too quickly. So I'm going to take some of the white. I'm just going to bring it down here. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the light blue version that's right around the outside of the moon. I'm going to take a little bit of my blue, Now you notice I'm not scooping it up from the center. I'm doing it from the edges. I do it from the edges so that I don't pollute the rest of my paint. Now I'm also going to take a little bit of my phthalo blue. Whoops. Spraying paint all over the place. So a little bit of phthalo blue. Whoops, that's more of a, yeah, that's right. Sorry, my apologies. I'm all over the place. Wrong paint. Phthalo blue. There we go. It's the darker one. So I'm going to grab a little bit of that as well. So primary blue and phthalo blue. Bring some of this over here. Everyone's painting is going to look a little bit different. Don't stress out about trying to make it look just like mine. We're going to start, like I said, with the lighter blue that we're going to be using to paint around our moon. Now, even with this color here today, I'm going to change mine up a little bit. It won't be quite as dark as on the original, but we will see. I'm not trying to match it exactly. Now I'm going to take my brush. I'm just going to go right around my moon carefully. Some of you may want to do this first with a smaller brush or skinnier brush to give you a little bit better control. Holding my breath here. So again, we're going to take our time with our background. Anytime you guys are working with acrylic paint, especially things like the background, they usually require at least 2 coats of paint. That's why we're taking today to focus on that. Okay, now this is a little darker than what I want. I'm just going to scoop up a little bit of white with my brush. A little bit, bring it over to the side. Do a quick blend there on the spot. And I'm going to come right in here and lighten things up a little bit. Now we're going to gradually get a little darker as we work our way towards the edges. My moon does not have to be perfect right now. The shape of the moon, I can always come back and make little corrections later. Okay? But once you've got your outer edge there, we can go ahead and start creating more of these little circles. We're going to keep going, working our way outwards. Now you can have a little bit of a kind of a spiral outwards where everything is just connected and you just keep working your way out. Or you can do each of the lines almost individually. Also, your moon could be a little bit further to the right, a little further to the left. All good. The idea isn't necessarily to try to make it exactly like mine. You can change things up a little bit if you'd like, or a lot. Maybe you're using different colors. Maybe you're going to have different elements in yours. Maybe a cat, a bat or two. Okay, and so we keep working our way out. Now I'm using really thick Liquitex paint. It's nice and kind of creamy, buttery, so it spreads really nicely. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to start picking it up a little bit. I'm going to keep working my way outwards. My circles don't have to be perfect. Just keep working my way out. So now, really quickly before we continue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pencil in my hill. Okay, now all I'm trying to do is have a kind of a guide where I know, let me go ahead and add it. I'm going to go ahead and add it and then I'll explain it. I'll explain what I'm going to do with this. So from the edge of my canvas, the original, I've got about a 7 inches from the top to where that edge of the hill starts. And over here on the other side, it's probably about the same length upwards, so about 7 inches. Okay. What I'm going to do, I got my little line. I just drew a little line here on the edge. It kind of marks off where that hill ends on that side. It's right about here. Again, it's about 7 inches down. And then here it's about 7 inches up. I'm just going to come over. Now I'm going to cover this up with paint in a little bit. I want to have a nice visual, though, that helps me figure out where that's going to be on my canvas. Okay, as I'm adding more circles outward, it helps me to know where that's going to be. You'll see what I'm talking. It'll make sense here in just a moment. Okay, so here we go. So I'm just going to cover this up really quickly, because we're done there, except for maybe a second layer in a little bit. So I'm working my way outwards, continue working my way out. You can add a little bit of water to your paint. If you have really thick paint, there is some paint that's really thick bodied. And that paint sometimes can be a little difficult to spread onto the canvas. So you want to add a little bit of water with your brush. Just dip it. You can always do this. If you're having a hard time getting that paint to spread, dip your brush in the water and then bring it over to your paint. Scoop up some paint. And that should make it a little easier. Sometimes I'll blend the paint and the water on the plate, and that helps. Again, I'm using this Liquitex paint, and it's nice and smooth. Doesn't need a whole lot of water. Really depends on what you're trying to do with it, but adding water to it will also dilute it a little bit, right? It'll thin it out. So just grabbing more of my phthalo blue, bringing it over here on the side, darkening it up a bit. It darkens up a little bit as we get over to the edge. When I'm done with this step, I'm going to give you guys about maybe a couple of minutes to get caught up, and I'll look at your questions. I'm sure some of you guys have some questions that I haven't looked at yet. I haven't looked over the comments section just yet, but I will. All right, there we go. Okay, other side over here. Now here's why I wanted this in place. It helps guide me. It gives me an idea where I need to stop. I don't want to waste a lot of paint. I could do these concentric circles all the way out and cover my entire canvas, but that's just going to be a waste of paint. That is one way to do it, though. With painting, there is no one exact way. There's lots of different methods that can get you to the same endpoint. Okay? For those of you that are newer to painting, I want you guys to kind of understand that. Different approaches will get you similar results. So you guys are just jumping on. I want to remind you guys that these sessions are being recorded. So if you can't hang out the entire time today, we're going to be painting for about an hour and 15 minutes. About an hour and 30 minutes maybe. You can always come back later this evening, tomorrow, and continue, or start it all from the beginning and paint with the recorded session. Okay, they're only going to be available through midnight on Saturday. And then, midnight Sunday. And then I move them over to my membership group. I have an art membership called Finding Your Brushstroke here on Facebook. So that's where these videos are going to go and live past Sunday midnight. Okay, so make sure you guys get in here and get these done before then. Unless you're part of the membership, you'll have access to them whenever you want. But all right, so I've got my swirls all in place. I take a little step back. I'm going to look at them, and now I can make little adjustments. Now I can clean up my lines. You notice I wasn't looking for perfection on these first ones. I came close. Now I can go in there and start making little adjustments. I can go, all right, what's crooked, what isn't, My paint is still pretty wet, so it gives me time to work. Now, acrylic paint, like I mentioned, does dry very fast. So you have a certain amount of time that you can make corrections under. So you want to move kind of quickly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start adding a little bit of my, just kind of fixing up those, the circles as they go outwards. They get a little bit darker. It's real subtle. It doesn't have to be super obvious, or it could be. It's up to you. Maybe you want to make those lines more obvious. Let me change the view on my screen here really quickly. There we go. Okay. That's better. Now you guys get a better view of what's happening. Okay, so anyway, so I just lightened up the paint, took a little bit of white, added some white. I'm going to go back in here now, starting back from the center. I'm going to start to fix this a little. I could fix my circle, make it a little bit more of a circle. I got to be careful though, because I can really quickly start making it too small. Start making it smaller and smaller and smaller. Right now I'm just trying to focus on how round it is. Now you can, it's hard to do, you can remove acrylic paint. Like let's say for example that my moon was too small, way too small. I could go in there and remove some of the acrylic paint from the inside. I could take a paper towel right now that everything's still wet. Now it's not an easy thing. It's not always a fun thing. I could take a paper towel, wipe off the edge, then wet the paper towel and go over that same area again to remove as much of that white paint as possible. Right? So I could do this. Just gonna go through here. Now, folks, I am taking my time a little bit with this. I don't want you guys, I don't want to rush this. I want everybody to do a nice job. Okay, and that requires us taking our time. So if some of you guys are speed demons, please be patient. I say that because every once in a while in one of my sessions, I get people asking me to speed it up. And that's not how this works. We take our time with it. Okay? But all right. Anyway, so you would do that. You'd also wet your towel. You could do that. You could just dip it into your water, even though there's blue water in there now, because that's my rinse cup that I got that from. And you can slowly begin to move this paint. Take this out. Take the paint out a little bit at a time. Whoops. Okay. And make corrections a little at a time. Again, it's not an easy thing to do, especially with darker paint, but it can be done. Okay. All right, let's go. So just going to continue here with my concentric circles. Okay. You guys see somebody asking a question in the comments that you know the answer to, like, hey, Jesse, is this being recorded? Please feel free to help me out. Let them know. Yes, Jesse said it's being recorded, and you can watch it later today, tomorrow, etc. Again, today we're only doing the background. We're going to finish up the background that includes putting in the black where the cemetery is, and then tomorrow we start to put in the haunted house, haunted mansion up on the hill, the tree, the pumpkins, the big tombstone in the front, all the little pumpkins on the hill. The little tombstones on the hill, all of that stuff. Okay. All right. So again, still I'm just refining everything. We want the background to look really nice. We take our time with it. Still using my big 1-inch brush. Don't forget, if your paint is a little thick, add a little bit of water with your brush. Blend it in nicely like that. Now when you come on up, it should flow real nicely. Just because you're working with acrylic paint, like I am, doesn't mean they all work the same. Acrylic paint will vary a little bit. There's soft acrylic paint that flows a little better, but doesn't cover as well as thicker paint. But the thicker paint is a little harder to spread onto a canvas. Okay, so it just really depends. So what I'm doing, again, is just going through and cleaning up my lines, making them nice and smooth. Making them a little bit darker as we move out gradually towards the edge of the canvas. It doesn't have to be a perfect gradient where they go perfect light from light to dark all the way out. It can vary a little bit. You can have some lighter lines after you've put in some darker ones, just as long as the general procession is that it gets darker as it gets over to the edge. Okay. Now, once you've done this part, if you want to, you can go and also paint in your edges. Okay, you can kind of do this to match the front. I was going to take some of my darker color and just paint. I'm painting the edges, right? The outside, kind of like this. You can also do this last. You can always leave this step for last. It's up to you guys. All right, just a moment. I'm going to take a look at the comments, questions, and stuff. You guys will see me when I'm looking over at the comments. That's your cue to ask any questions, or again, you can back the video up. If you missed something that I said, you can ask me to repeat it, no problem. Or if there's something that I'm doing that you don't understand, please ask your questions. There are no wrong questions. I'll say it like that. Especially if you're a newer painter, I totally understand. Or maybe there's a process that you do a little differently. All good. Ask your questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. But if you miss something, you can also back the video up. Okay? Something new on Facebook that I discovered not too long ago. You can actually set it so that people can back your video up. Maybe something newer with these live sessions. But all right, let's take a look. All right, let's see. Scrolled all the way down to the bottom. Martha Hicks, I had to start over. I put the moon in the wrong spot. It's all good, Martha. All good. Don't worry about it. What's happening, Alana? Hi, Rose. Sounds good, Rose. No worries. You know how this works. There's a lot to keep up with. I know. Let's see. Shannon Johnson. I'm not sure if you're asking me or, but let's see. We want to bring this guy a little below halfway. So yes. Excellent observation. Excellent. So here's the bottom, or here's about halfway on my canvas. Right about maybe here. If I was to draw a line horizontally, halfway on my canvas is about right here. Okay. So on my 16 by 20 inch canvas, this little edge where that hill is, and it's not a perfectly smooth line here. No big deal. I'll fix that later. But my hill line, the edge starts a little bit above that. Okay. And then if I come across the center of my canvas, and again, this doesn't have to be perfectly centered on yours. It could be a little lower than mine, a little higher than yours. than mine. Sorry. The main thing would be that you guys leave enough space for when you put in your house. Now, this is what I used. Once I made the original, I used tracing paper to excuse me, to create the stencils. So if you guys have the stencils printed out, you could kind of use that as a gauge as to where you're going to be putting your hill. Okay, you just want to leave enough space above everything, or above the hill, to be able to fit that in. Now here's the pumpkins. Okay, those are going to be sitting here with this stencil. And again, we're not doing any of this until tomorrow. But the stencil here, this one, if you line it up with that edge on the 16 by 20 inch canvas, that's where those pumpkins would sit. That's where that tombstone would be, right? The tree would sit right about right there. Okay. So anyhow, you don't have these stencils yet. When you register, you get a thank you. As soon as you register, you get a little thank you. There's a link that you click on, and that gets you access to the downloadable files for that. All right. All right. Thank you, Deb. Appreciate it. What's happening, Susan? All right, guys, we got about 1 minute, and we're going to start on this hill in the front. Okay. What's happening, Joe? Marissa. There's a link. I'm Marissa. So there's a link in the description of the video. In the description, there's a link to the membership email list. Also, the art membership is called Finding Your Brushstroke. Just like that. Finding Your Brushstroke, one word. If you look for that, you'll find the private group. You don't have access to it, but you'll see the group. You can find the group that way. But all right, everybody, we can do a little bit more refining on our sky a little bit later. We can come back and add more white to the moon. We're going to let everything dry in there. Okay. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and put in the blue, the darker blue for that hill. Now, the thing with the hill, in this case, I am going to take blue and go bring it all the way down. So from here down, I'm going to go ahead and create a darker blue. Mostly it's going to be the phthalo blue. If it's not dark enough, whatever blue you use for your background, if it's not dark enough, it doesn't contrast enough against that background, you're going to want to make it a little bit darker. Okay, and you can make blue darker by adding a little bit of red. You can make it darker by adding a little bit of black. Go slowly when you add that color to it, because if you add too much of the darker color, you can very quickly overpower the color that you're mixing, right? The color that you started with. You always want to take the lighter color and add the darker color to it. So I've got all this phthalo blue here on this mix plate. I'm going to move it to another one. I've got an old plate that I used a few days ago that has a lot of space on it. So I'm going to bring it over here. Okay. And this is probably more than what I need, but I can do this. I can hold up the paint right up to the canvas, and I can see that it's a lot darker than that color up on top. I don't want it quite that dark. So I'm going to add a little bit of my primary blue. The primary blue and the phthalo blue have, there's not a big difference, but there is a nice difference. I'm going to mix the two together. Okay, I kind of do this. Again, just to kind of pull up. It's going to make my phthalo blue a little bit more, it's going to be more of a blue. Phthalo blue tends to have a little bit of a purple in it. Okay, but again, the main thing is I want it to contrast against the background, the sky. So we'll mix a little bit more of my primary blue in here, and then we're going to get going. Now, this does waste a lot of paint a lot of times, because the main thing whenever you're mixing colors is you want to make sure you have enough to cover the entire area that you're going to cover. You don't want to run out when you mix a color. You don't want to run out part way, because that's a lot harder. It's harder to come back and try to mix the same color. So here we go. I'm just going to come through here. Go like this. If your color is a little transparent, when you apply it like this on your canvas, you're going to be able to see some of that color come through. Okay, the color of the canvas come through. It might look a little bright. It's going to look uneven. Don't stress about that. This first step we're gonna go ahead and apply this paint, and then we're gonna come back once this dries a little bit. And again, I'm probably gonna use my blow dryer here in a bit, depends on how dry it is or how wet it still is when I want to cover this, when I want to come back and paint over it again. We're gonna create another layer. We're gonna add another layer over this, and that's gonna make everything a lot more intense and a lot more even, like the original. Okay. That's why we're taking our time with the background. Background is very important to the final product. If you have a background that's really washed out or uneven, etc., it doesn't look as nice. Okay, so, and then the other thing is this. Let's say you put on this pink color and you decide, man, it's not dark enough. Your second or third layers can always be a little darker, and then you darken it up that way. So the color that you add right now does not have to be perfect. You want it close to what you need. Okay, if it's not spot on, it's okay. Now, again, in this case, we're going to go all the way down to the bottom. When we cover this up with black, actually, I could have left that part out. I didn't have to color that, but that's okay. We'll be all right. So all the way down, what I want to do here now is spread my paint. Make sure that's nice and, kind of an even coat. It doesn't have to be a perfectly even coat. It could have some areas that are a little thicker, but I don't want there to be a huge difference. So I'm just using my brush to kind of blend things out a bit. Here at the top, I'm going to bring my hill up a little bit. Now, keep in mind, all this above here is going to be black, right? Because we're going to have a house sitting on top of here somewhere. All we really want to worry about is making sure that we have enough space up here, and then making this kind of smooth. We can adjust this once we add the house. We're just going to go through here and smooth everything out. Again, I'm going to take this and paint my edges. For those of you that like the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, I'm going to be doing an event sometime in the middle of October, kind of like this, where I don't have it with me. I don't have the painting here in my studio, but I'll show it sometime later in the week, where you guys are going to be able to join me. Most of the stuff that I do happens in my membership group, but sometimes I'll come out and do some cool stuff in the free page. Okay, so anyway, be on the lookout for that. That one's also going to glow under black light. It's going to be a moon sugar skull, I believe. Or maybe it's going to be a sugar skull couple. We'll see. But anyway, if you're a fan, keep your eyes open for that. So again, all I'm doing here, you guys notice there's a lot of blotchiness. There's an uneven color in the hill. It's a little hard to see, maybe because this light's washing things out. Let me see if I can turn it off. You guys have a better view of what I'm talking about. But it's a little bit uneven in color. I'm not worried about that. That will change once I add a second coat of paint. Okay, so don't stress too much about that. Put your layer down, even it out as much as you can. Work out some of that blotchiness as much as you can, but don't stress. We're going to fix that later. Okay. All right. Sandra Greer, no worries. I know that comment was from earlier. I'm just scrolling back through the comments. Again, if you're a little late, you can back the video up. Also, it's being recorded. You can come back and continue with it once we're done with the session today. Okay. Same with all the sessions over the next couple of days. Bernadette says, any difference of painting left-handed or right-handed? You know what? I've taught people that are left-handed. They just made some minor adjustments, right? Work with what's best for you. If you need to switch things around, put your moon on the right. I don't know if that makes any difference. And I know you asked this quite a bit earlier, so maybe my answer is a little too late, but just make any changes that you need to. It's your painting. At the end of the day, I want you guys happy with what you're creating with me. So you do not have to create everything exactly how I am. Okay, you can make some changes. Get creative with yours. All right, so we're letting that background dry. We're going to move on. We're going to add another coat of paint up in here to the moon. I want to refine that a little bit, maybe work on that background a little bit more. Now, my background does have a little bit of glow-in-the-dark blue. So I'm going to add a little bit of that. What's happening, Linda? Thank you for jumping on. Again, guys, if you see me looking down, I'm monitoring the feed using my laptop. So I apologize. I need to get me a big monitor that I can sit on top here so I can look at it and see your comments. Instead, I've got to look down at my screen. Sounds good, Lisa. Absolutely. Hi, Tasneem. You got it, Marissa. My pleasure. Let's see. All right. I don't think again, folks, I'm looking over the comment section. Ask your questions. Let me jump over to StreamYard really quickly, see if I've missed anything over there. What's happening, Swaggy Josh? Swaggy X Josh. How's it going? How are you? Okay. So here we go. Now, if you're new to painting with acrylic paints, you want to have a rinse cup in between steps. You always want to have your brushes, unless you're cleaning them up in between every step, which that can be really cumbersome. And I don't know that I've ever seen anybody do that, but you could. You want to keep your brushes inside of a rinse cup, a little bit of water. Now, on my really nice brushes, I'll have a container that's laid, container that's wide and kind of shallow, so my brushes can sit at an angle. When you leave your brushes too long with the weight of the brushes pushing down on the bristles, you can damage them over time. But you most definitely don't want any acrylic paint to dry out on those brushes, so keep them in water. But all right, here we go. I'm going to switch over to my number 5 Filbert. I'm going to grab some of this pure white that I've got right here. Again, I'm using some really flowy paint, so I don't have to add water to it, not on this step. If you need to, you can take a little bit of water, dip your brush into your water first, and then apply your paint. Add a little bit of water to your brush, put that brush into the paint, mix it into the paint a little, and then take your brush and apply it. So again, I have a clean water cup over here. I'd go like this, just the bristles. Okay, and then I would take my brush with all that water in it, find a little spot in my paint, grab a little bit like that, and then come in and paint. Okay, adding water to your paint is very important, especially when you're working with thicker paint. Okay, now what I'm doing with my paint here, I'm just going through and correcting the edges a little bit, making them a little bit smoother. All this is dry. I can take my finger, stabilize my hand a little bit, and go all the way around my edges. Again, making them nice and smooth. Okay, and I can come back and do that as many times as I need to. If I need to come back and add more white paint in here, clean up my edges a little bit more, I'll come back and do that. Okay, I'm done with my brush. In my water cup it goes. Okay, I'm going to take a little step back. I'm going to look at my sky really quickly. There are some things that need to be corrected, so I'm going to take my 1/2-inch brush now. Still got my mixture from earlier. I'm going to take a little bit of this white paint. I'm going to lighten it up. Now I am going to dip my brush in my water. That area of paint has been sitting on my plate for a bit and drying out just a little bit. So water, and then come over to the mixture and grabbing a little bit of my phthalo blue to darken it just a little bit more. And then let's see what this looks like when I apply it. Steady hands, very important. you can get steady hands with practice. Okay, the more you practice, just like any other muscle. Whoops, I got a little drip coming here. We want to avoid drips. Those drips can cause problems. So be careful. If you see a drip, take care of it right away. Okay, now I got some of my neon blue here. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this, and I'm going to just find a little spot here on my plate. Okay, there's my neon blue. I'm going to take that 1/2-inch brush once again. Where'd you go? Right here. Okay, it was in my cup, so I want to make sure I remove as much of that excess water as I can. Okay, and I'm going to dip it right into my neon. Okay, now let me see if I can show you guys what it looks like. I'm not sure if it's going to translate, but it might be a little hard to see there, but it's really, really bright and pretty. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to start finding little spots where I can mix this right in. This is the only time I'm going to be using neon paint until Sunday, just on this background. I want to add some in here. Now this neon paint is a little bit transparent. So when you put it over this dark blue paint, it kind of blends in a bit. I don't have to do it on every single part of my sky. I'm just going to pick some spots. If you guys have not yet, and you guys are new to, maybe this is the first time you're painting with me, Painting with Jesse page, right here on Facebook, is open. It's a free page, free group where I do lots of tutorials. All of last year I spent doing a bunch of tutorials. Anyhow, make sure you guys follow the page so you guys don't miss anything. Okay, so again, Painting with Jesse page. If you guys don't yet, please give it a follow. So still taking my neon here and just working my way out. I'm adding it now because this is my sky and I don't want to add it in between the tree branches later, or the haunted house is going to be in the way. You could. It just makes it easier if we do it this way. And then also my membership, I mentioned it. I talked to it a couple of times. Let me put up the little banner. Give me a second. There is a link in the description. If you guys are interested in the membership, finding out about the membership, I have an email wait list. The doors are closed right now, but I'll be opening them up again for about a week in November. So you guys don't miss out on any of the details. Sign up for that membership. We do all kinds of fun stuff there. I teach you guys how to draw. I teach how to draw from scratch, and we paint. I have adult sessions in there, and then I've also got kid sessions. It's like a 2-in-1. It is right now. Eventually, my thinking is I'm going to split the two. But if you joined in when they were both together, you have access to both. Lifetime. Okay, so again, if you guys are interested, I teach you how to draw, I teach you how to paint. We do kids and adult sessions. We have a lot of fun. Really good group. Lots of awesome people in there. A few of them are painting with us right now. Amazing group of people, just super positive, and we all kind of support each other. Anyhow, if you think you might like something like that, sign up to the email, no obligations. You'll just be first to find out when the important dates pop up. So sometime in November, I plan on opening the doors for about a week, letting new people in, and then the doors won't open again until sometime in March. Okay, long time to have to wait. If you have to wait for March. Excuse me. Okay, so there is my glow under black light paint. I just added it to the background. Okay, pretty cool little effects already. Again, this does not mean, so for the bulk of our background, we just completed the bulk of the background. This doesn't mean you can't come back and make adjustments later. Even after the tree and the haunted mansion are in place, you can come back and make adjustments. Thing is, you want most of what you're going to have, you want it all in place now. In other words, the majority of your background should be pretty good. It should be close to what you wanted. Because later, once you've got the tree in there and that house on top of the hill in place, it's a lot harder to make changes because you have to work around them. Okay? So what you want to do when you think you're done with that sky, take a step back, look at it from a distance and say, yeah, I like it. No, I don't like it. And make corrections. Okay? So I'm going to get into I'm going to dry my hill. I'm going to take a blow dryer and dry what's still wet on that hill so I can come in and add a second layer of paint. I'll look at it one more time and I'll decide if I need a third layer of paint in here. Okay, so bear with me. I'm about to turn my blow dryer on. All right. Before I do that, let me take a look. See if you guys have any questions for me before I move on here. Hi, Don. Hey, Ron. You're welcome. All right, here we go. So again, my area down here is still blotchy, right? I dried it. Sure enough, it's still blotchy. I'm going to go ahead and add a second layer of paint. Again, if your hill is okay, so let's say I stuck with the same exact color as I used earlier. Once I add a second layer of that same color, it will get really dark. It's going to get darker. It's going to get more even. It's going to take more of all these little brighter colored areas are going to look more like this. Okay, so you kind of have to gauge it a little bit. Is that the color that you want? Or do you need to lighten things up a bit? Up to you. I got my primary blue. I'm going to put some right over here. Again, my plate is nice and it's an old plate that I've been using, that I used a couple of times. I like to use my plates as much as I can. In this case, I am going to add a little bit of water to my paint. I dip my brush into my water cup. I come over and I drip paint right here, right onto that mixture. What's nice about using a white plate is that I can look at the paint against the background, against the white background, and see if that's something that I want. Do I want it that color? Okay, so again, I'm mixing primary blue and some of my phthalo blue. Okay, and water. Water thins out the paint a little bit. I don't want it drippy. I don't want it runny. I want it nice and thin. And I want to mix enough to cover my entire hill. I'm hoping I don't have to do a third layer, but we'll see. Now, if you don't have a blow dryer to speed things up, don't worry. Just let it dry naturally. Watch what I'm doing. And then wait till it's all nice and dried. You don't want to start adding a second layer on top of a wet layer. That you're just going to move paint around. It's not going to look nice. So let your layer dry completely before you come in and start adding more paint on top of it. That's usually a really frustrating process, because some of the paint's partly dry, some of it's still wet, and all you do is start moving paint around. Things get even blotchier and can be no fun. So you guys notice, watch what happens as I apply this layer. And I don't have to use a real even brush stroke. It's a hill, so I can kind of just play around with it a little bit. Maybe my brush strokes go kind of in a curved motion where they follow the shape of that hill a little bit. So if you guys are interested in following what happens here on Painting with Jesse, make sure you follow the page. I also have an email list for people that just want to follow the Painting with Jesse page. I let you know whenever I don't always plan when I'm coming on. This one's been planned for a little while, but I don't always plan it. Sometimes I come on last minute, a day or two ahead of time. I'll say, hey, I'm going to jump onto the Painting with Jesse page and do a little drawing with everybody there. A little coffee and art session or something like that. So I do sometimes do it, last minute. And then there's other times where I go ahead and make a whole event around it. And I set it up in Facebook and you get reminders and all this other stuff. So if you guys aren't following the page, you won't get those. Okay. So again, I'll look at my handiwork. The hill is still a little bit blotchy, and it's okay. It's looking like a hill, so I like it. Okay, I'm going to take my blow dryer one more time to all of this, and we're going to move on to a third layer. All right. What else you guys got for me? What's happening, Linda? From Connecticut. Oh, I think I said hello earlier. What's happening, Anita? Let's see. Okay, I'll share it. I'll share it in a little bit. No problem. Sounds good, Diana. I will share that link. Okay. So again, this is all nice and dry. I think this will be the last layer of paint for that background. But again, this is why we take our time with it, right? This is why I can't do all of this in a 2-hour session. There's just too much to do. Not if you want something really nice. You can go through this really fast and end up with okay results, but you're not going to get a really nice quality piece unless you take your time with it. Okay, so always keep in mind that whenever you paint, there's going to be some patience involved. It really depends on what style of painting you have. But a painting like this requires lots of little steps and a lot of prep. Background is very important to the finished product. So we're taking our time with this. Okay, I'm adding a little bit of water, just mixed more of that phthalo blue and the primary blue to get kind of that in-between color. And here we go. Now, I may end up with a darker color than the original, or I may end up with a slightly lighter color. That's not super important. The main thing is that the colors work well together, the sky and then the hill and the colors in front. I used colors that go very well together. Used a little bit of color theory to pick the colors that I was going to use for this, that I ended up using for this. I used there's a little bit of color theory involved when you create a painting from scratch that will help you produce something that's really harmonious. It flows well. Okay, so not to get into that too much, but the colors that I picked are colors that go well together, that enhance a piece, a painting. Okay, so, and that's what's important, that we stick with that kind of flow. Now I'm over here working from 2 plates. I've got my primary blue over on this other one, and I got my phthalo blue on this one. So if you see me reaching back behind the canvas, it's because my other plate is right over there. Now, I work with a lot of paint, oftentimes because I'm painting on a 16 by 20 inch canvas. So it's easier for me to use these plates because I can mix a lot of paint. If I'm using a small palette, like my wet palette is pretty small, it doesn't make a lot of sense because my space is limited. Whereas with these plates, I can mix them. I can use various plates at the same time to create different mixes and scoop the paint right from the plates. It's not necessarily super organized, but it works. You got to find what works for you. What works for me may not work for you, and what works for somebody else may be a little different, right? Everybody finds their own process, and you get that through experimentation and just going for it. All right, let's see what we got here. Much better. Okay. Now let me turn my other light off here. It's washing out the painting on the right. Now, quite a big difference. This is quite a bit darker than that. I'm all right with that. It still works. Okay. I could lighten it up. It all still falls within the colors that work together. So this is still good. If I didn't like that, if I wanted it lighter to look more like this, I would simply add a 4th layer with a lighter color. Okay, so you can make corrections on something like this if, when you take a step back, you look at it and you go, oh, you know what? I could change it up. I'm going to leave it. I like it. I like that it doesn't look just like the original. It's going to give me something else to compare it with. Okay, it's going to give me a different look. So you got it, Lisa. My pleasure. You know what, Linda? There's not enough time to get into all the different projects that I would love to do. Yeah, there's so much. I was at Hobby Lobby yesterday, and I was walking through the aisles, and of course, my brain starts going, ooh, I can make this with that, or I can make that with this. Or imagine grabbing that and then changing it and doing this, right? My brain starts to go. So I get you. Dabbling and, doing all the other stuff, watercolor and pastels and oil paints, all that stuff, all fantastic. But all right, everyone, I'm going to take my blow dryer here really quickly one last time on this step. Okay, last and final step, I believe, for today will be to add in this black background, or the darker. It's more of a purple. Okay, this is more of a purple. So I'm going to take this mixture of blues that I got on here. I'm going to add, I can add a little bit of black. If you have red, you can also use a little bit of red and add some red to it. I don't think I listed red on my supplies list, but that's okay. So most of you probably will have red. I'm going to add a little bit of red and a little bit of black to make this almost a really deep purple. Okay, just a little bit. Again, if you don't have red, don't stress out about it. Okay, you can use black. And then I'll show you to do it a little bit at a time. You want to do that. You want to do your mixture a little bit at a time. If you go too quickly, whoops, that's something. that's not the red that I want. Give me 1 second. All right. If you do it too quickly, you're gonna ruin your color. You're gonna waste color. Okay, so be real careful. Any red is fine. I'm gonna be using just a primary red. Okay, and again, I'm gonna do it a little bit at a time. So red, especially black, are very strong colors. So when you add too much of those, you're gonna overpower your other colors. I'm taking my 1-inch brush. That's what I'm going to be using. I'm just going to clean it up a little bit. Actually, I don't have to clean it because it's got blue on it. But I'm going to grab some red. Okay. Again, a little bit at a time. That little bit of red can make a big difference. Okay. And I'm just mixing it up over here in this area. Let me show you what happens here. Even though the red looked really bright, when I mixed it with the blue, look what happened there. Really dark, okay? A really, really dark, almost, it looks almost black unless I go and put it next to black, then you can tell the difference. But that little bit of red makes a really big impact. Okay, so we're gonna do that again. I'm gonna scoop up a lot of this blue, bring it over. Okay. We'll do that again. I'm looking for a deep purplish color. So red with my, again, it's a mixture of phthalo blue and primary blue. Okay, now I'm going to grab a little bit of black. I've got my Mars black over here. Again, don't need a lot. I'm going to put it over to the side first. Okay, like that. I don't want to add it right into the what I'm mixing, because again, if it's too strong, that's a lot harder to fix. So a little bit at a time, a little bit. And then take a little step back and look at it. All right, we're getting there. Got more of this blue, bring it over. Before I apply it to the canvas, I want to make sure that everything looks good on my plate. Close, we're close, a little more red. I want it a little more purple, so a little more red. All right. Dip my brush in my water. Bring a couple of those drops over. Make sure that that blends in really nicely. Mix it, mix it, mix it. And here we go. Okay, I'm going to start with this part of my hill. So I'm not worried about the tree. I've got a hill that comes up, drops down. I'm actually going to draw kind of an outline around where the pumpkins are going to be. We'll start with that. No, you know what? Hold on. Let's see here. We're going to go like this. Don't stress too much about this step. Don't overthink it. We're going to come up. Okay. Let me see what view you guys have here real quick. Make sure that everything still looks good. Okay, good. So I come up a little bit, probably a little higher than what I really want. So I'm just going to change direction. Bring this back down. Now I know I'm going to have some. So this pumpkin sits at about halfway up my palette. So half up my canvas. So if the middle of my canvas is here, if I draw a line straight up, that pumpkin sits right about in the middle. It's centered. Okay, almost perfect. So knowing that that's going to be there, I'm just going to. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just going to work my way around it. When we actually do the pumpkins, I'm actually going to do a white area in here. I'm going to paint it white first. Once I kind of draw out the shape of the pumpkin, when I'm ready to paint, I'm going to draw white, paint over that in white. So it gives me a base where I can then paint over that, and I don't have to mess with painting over these really dark colors. Oftentimes when you paint over really dark colors, not oftentimes, when you're painting really light colors over dark colors, you have to use a whole lot of layering to get that color right. So again, this big pumpkin's going to sit right in here somewhere. The little pumpkin's going to sit over here somewhere. So I'm just kind of gauging where that's going to be. My tombstone comes in about right in here, about 2.5 inches from the side. So right there, I'm just, whoops, almost dropped my brush. It's going to come down like this. Okay. So again, this tombstone is going to be right about here. So here we go, painting this back. Now this is not black, folks. I want to make sure you guys understand this color that I've applied here is not black. It's a really deep purple. Okay, almost like a really deep, I guess maybe even navy blue would be more correct. I know it might look black against the background, but it's not. Could be black. I guess it would be okay. Wouldn't make too much of a difference, but when we put in the black tree, it will stand out. The tree will stand out against this purple that we just applied. Okay, now watch. I need to correct in here for to make some space for my pumpkin. And again, this isn't super crucial, folks. I'm just going to show you guys how you can erase, how you can remove acrylic paint. This is not a crucial step. You don't really have to worry about this too much. Just get close to what it's going to be. And you can even use your stencil. You can even kind of grab your stencil. Oops, I got some paint on this one. And just kind of gauge it. Where would those sit? Okay, how much space do I approximately need? Put that over there before I ruin those. Not that I'm going to use them, but they're good for me to use as for the demonstration part of it. Now I can take a little bit of water on my paper towel, a little bit, and I just clean that up some more. Okay, you can make corrections in acrylic paint. If you need to make corrections, it's better to do it when everything's still wet, so that way it's easier to remove the paint. However, you don't need to. Okay, sorry. You can do it when everything has dried, but that's a lot harder to do. Okay, so again, all I did was come in here and make a little adjustment in here where I think my big pumpkin's going to be. You could paint all of this black and paint white over it when we do the pumpkins. Let that dry and then put in the colors for your pumpkin. That would work too. Again, different ways to do this. There's not one set way. There's more efficient ways, but you work with what's good for you. Okay, let me dry this really fast. All right, always take a step back. Even if you're sitting right in front of it, I normally would be sitting right in front of my canvas instead of over to the side. You always want to take a step back, look at your work from a distance, because it gives you an overall better perspective. It's easier to catch discrepancies, and you're better able to gauge where you need to make corrections. Now, now that I'm looking at this dried, I could come in and do another layer of paint on my hill. Okay, I'm not worried about this up here. This is pretty close to what it's going to be like when it's done. Once I add my tree tomorrow and I come in and put in the pumpkins and everything else and the tombstone, I can still make corrections in here a little bit. Okay, because this sits in the foreground, I don't have to worry about it too much right now. As long as I'm close, we're good. I got the shape, the general shape for my big pumpkin right here, and I got the general shape for the little pumpkin. Now, over here to the side, I could come over a little bit further from my little pumpkin. We'll see before I put in the tombstone. But I basically have prepped my canvas so that tomorrow I can come in and start applying other things. Now, the tree may sit a little higher. Maybe I need to bring this up a little higher. I can make that correction tomorrow. Okay. As long as basically everything is really close to the way I want it, we're good to go. Oh, I was saying I could add another layer of paint on this background to even it out a bit more. It looks a little bit blotchy. It still works. Once I add in all of the tombstones and stuff and the shadows, it'll probably all blend in. We're pretty much getting close to the end of the session here, but I probably off camera, either in the morning or later today, we'll see. I'll come in and add. I'll look at it again. I'll add maybe add the fourth layer of paint on this just to even things out some more, and maybe when I add that second layer, I will brush a little bit more upwards, more in an upwards motion, so everything comes up, and here everything just kind of converges up. Even though that isn't super important, it could give my hill a little bit more flow. Okay, so but anyhow, let me jump on here and see what you guys got for me before I say goodbye to everybody. We didn't start painting right away, so we have been painting for about an hour and 15 minutes. But questions, folks, give me your questions. What do you guys think? So tomorrow, same time as today, 3 p.m. Pacific time. It just depends on where you are, right? What your time zone is. But 3 p.m. same time. Saturday's when it changes. Saturday's going to be in the morning, my time, 11 o'clock Saturday morning. Again, don't worry too much. Just make sure you're paying attention to your notifications so that you know when I'm on. You're going to be able to back up the live video just like you did today, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. It won't change much, right? You're going to be able to do that in both places. Also, you can always come back and paint with the recorded session. Instead of jumping on with the live, you can always do the recorded session. The lives are a lot more fun because we're able to talk, you're able to ask questions, etc. It's just cooler to be on at the same time as everybody else. But it is all good. What's happening, Luke? What's happening, Gracie? How are you? You got it, Diana. My pleasure. Absolutely, Luke and Gracie. Hope you're having a good time. Who else wants a shout out? Let me know. Put it in the comments. Let's see. Just scrolling through really quickly. Good, Rose. Rose says, my painting is looking eerie already. I love Halloween. Halloween is awesome. I love Halloween too. So much fun stuff around Halloween. And October hasn't even started yet. Tomorrow is the official start time. Let's see. Yep. Okay, Lisa, this is awesome. Thank you, Jesse. You got it, Lisa. My pleasure. Just going back through the list, folks. All right. Hi, Gloria. What's happening, Gloria? So, Gloria, you're part of the membership. I posted the link to these a few days ago. I just posted the links earlier before we started. You can simply go on to there and click on those links, and you'll have access to them. But remind me again. I'll send them to you if you need. Just let me know if you can't find them. They're on the main page on the in the membership group. Okay. For those of you that are not part of the membership, remember once you register for the event, if you haven't done so yet, you need the stencils, the complete supplies list when you register for the event, and that information's in the description of this video. Click on that link, takes you to where you register. It's real quick. You'll register within a few seconds, and then the thank you page has a link on it. You click on it, and it takes you right to the page where you can download the supplies list and then the PDF file with the stencils. They're PDF files, so you can print them and change the size and all this other stuff, as long as you have some options with how to do that. All right, but okay. Sounds good, Adrienne. Make sure you share your painting, okay? I want to see how you guys do. But all right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you guys being here. Have fun with this. Don't get too caught up on the details. Don't stress out about trying to create something exactly like mine. The point is to try to change it up a little bit. And even if you're trying to make it look just like this one, and it turns out it looks a little different, it's all right. It's your own unique style, right? So don't stress out about it. Have fun. Enjoy the process, especially if you're newer at painting. It's going to take a little bit to get the feel for it, but do take your time with it, okay? Again, folks, the recording is going to be available immediately after. You can continue to work with that if you're not done yet. You can come back to it tomorrow morning before we start on the main session, the actual part 2 of this. But part 2 is tomorrow at 3 p.m. and then Saturday's part 3, third and last part, Saturday at 11 o'clock Pacific time. Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Don't forget, if you guys are interested in the membership group, being part of that email list, click in the description. There's also a link in the description of this video. There's also a link for that. Click on that. Takes you over to the waiting list. Just add your name to it. And then that way, whenever I'm ready to make announcements around the opening, like I said, we're going to be opening the doors for a week in November. I'll send an email out to everybody that's on that list, and you won't miss out on the opportunity. No obligations. If you don't, care to sign up, once you even if you're part of the list, you just unsubscribe and you're good to go. All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow's the official first day of October. I'm excited. I'm going to try to have my studio set up Halloween style. All right, everyone. Thank you. I will see you guys all soon. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Hi, Penny. Yes, 2 hours ahead. Yes, you are 2 hours ahead. That's correct. Okay. But okay. Bye, guys. See you tomorrow.